You can't believe it. Your new king, Alexander, is only 20 years old. It's true that he has had the finest education. He has studied in Athens under the great philosopher Aristotle. He has also proven to be an able warrior. His father, Philip II, king of Macedonia, had been a great leader. He took over many lands and conquered Greece. But he made enemies. One was a young noble who murdered him. What will Macedonia do without the firm hand of Philip? Will Alexander be a good enough leader to continue the conquests of his father? Will he show the same genius for leadership as his father did? It didn't take long for Alexander to show his leadership qualities. In 334 BC, just 2 years after he became king of Macedonia, Alexander invaded the Persian Empire. In a battle on the plain of Issus in Syria, Alexander showed a real genius for leadership. The much larger Persian army rained a storm of arrows down on Alexander's army. However, Alexander did not order a retreat. Instead, he ordered his army to attack. When the Persians saw their opponents charging at them, they fled in terror, and Alexander was triumphant. Alexander then turned south. He conquered Syria and Phoenicia. In 332 BC, he invaded Egypt, where the Persians had ruled for 200 years. The Egyptians quickly surrendered, and Alexander was crowned as pharaoh. Alexander's army had to face the Persian army one last time in 331 BC. Once again, the Persian forces were larger than Alexander's army, and once again, Alexander's army won the battle. After defeating the Persians, Alexander led his army eastward. Everywhere he went, he was victorious. Finally, he took the army through the rugged mountains of India. 5 years after his march started, it ended in the pouring rains of the monsoon. Alexander's soldiers were exhausted. They would go no farther. Alexander marched his army back toward Greece. However, he fell ill and died before he could return. He was only 33 years old. During his rule, which lasted about 13 years, Alexander created a vast empire in Europe, Asia, and Africa. He founded many new cities. He spread Greek culture to the conquered lands. He also adopted many Asian ways. A new civilization developed from this blend of Greek and Asian cultures. Historians call this period the Hellenistic Age. Hellas was the name the Greeks used for their country. For these accomplishments, the young Macedonian king is known in history as Alexander the Great. After Alexander's death, a violent power struggle erupted. There was no clear line of succession. When the fighting was over, 3 of Alexander's generals divided the empire among themselves. For 300 years, Hellenistic culture expanded. It spread over a large part of Europe, northern Africa, and western Asia. During this time, new Greek cities were founded in all parts of the empire. These cities became centers of Greek culture. Many of these cities patterned their laws on Greek law. A lively trade grew between the Hellenistic cities and far-off parts of the world. From India came spices and perfumes. From China came precious silks. Ivory and gold came from Africa. One of the cities Alexander founded, Alexandria in Egypt, became the greatest center of trade and learning. Its population was more than 1 million people, including Egyptians, Greeks, Persians, and Sudanese. Its harbor was the busiest in the ancient world. The lighthouse at Alexandria was the first known lighthouse. It was between 350 and 440 feet tall. The reflection of light from its fires was visible 35 miles out to sea. The library in Alexandria was considered one of the greatest in the world.